a disastrous campaign saying, quote, "It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them." And Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont joins me now. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here on this Sunday after Election Day. Let's start right there. Your criticism incredibly direct. You say you think the Democratic Party has, quote, abandoned the working class. How exactly do you think Democrats have abandoned the working class, Senator?
Look, the working people of this country are extremely angry. They have a right to be angry. In the richest country in the history of the world, today, the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and millions of families worry that their kids are actually going to have a lower standard of living than they do. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to...
Quick, put some numbers on the board to talk about how things are actually great, like the GDP and the stock market performance, so that we own Bernie in the marketplace of Reddit. You know? I promise, if we just keep talking about the vibe session, down ballot here continues to be awful for Republicans. Arizona Senate Gallego, D plus 15. Nevada, Rosen plus 14. North Carolina Governor Stein plus D11. That's the governor, though. It's different. That just about does it for the House. Dems would have to run the table in all 5 CA races, win Piltolo's race in Alaska, and come back in AZ06 to get a bare 218-217 majority. All of that is unlikely to happen. I think North Carolina is a bit unique, as the Republican candidate had a huge scandal break in October. No, it's actually unique for a different reason and very similar for other reasons. I'll explain. It's unique because it's a gubernatorial race, and split ticket voting on governor's races is super common. It's the most common thing. People have a significantly closer investment to who their governor is because they recognize that their governor changes, their immediate conditions pretty dramatically. That's why you see a lot of blue states with red governors and a lot of red states with blue governors. Kentucky comes to mind. Okay? But it's also the same because both Gallego, Rosen, and Stein's opponents were insane. They were green, they were untested, or they were failures. Like they were multiple time failures. Okay? They were very Trumpian. Mark Robinson saying he's, Black Hitler. Or Carrie Lake, the only person who wasn't arrested for storming the Capitol on January 6th, even though she wasn't there, she was there in spirit and carried on that resentment to her fucking dumbass campaign. Just a fucking psychopath. Or Gallego's opponent was, Gallego's opponent was Carrie Lake. The Rosen's opponent was a dude who lost his race in fucking, I believe, Texas beforehand. And who, okay, Kaya, come here. Kaya, place. Okay, bye. But then how did Brown lose in Ohio? Not as close, and Brown still outperformed Kamala Harris by fucking 15 points or some shit. What are you talking about? That was the consequence that was the consequence, in my opinion, in Ohio of Kamala Harris's performance. Kaya, please. Sherrod Brown got around 100,000 more votes than Kamala Harris. Anyway, let's get back to Bernard.
To all of our people, 25% of our seniors are trying to live on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And the gap between the people on top and everybody else is getting wider and wider.
Brown outperformed by 7 points, 15, and he probably would have won. I'm sorry.
And then, Kristen, on top of all of that, we got a corrupt campaign finance system which allows billionaires to buy elections. So if you're an average worker out there, you're saying, hey, I'm working longer and longer hours, going nowhere in a hurry, worried about my kids, and yet the people on top have never had it so good. Where is the Democratic Party? Are they prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security? Are they prepared to do those things? That's the issue that we have to address.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for, but I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour. In America today, we have not brought, in the Senate, we have not brought to the floor the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're not talking about defined benefit pension plans so that our elderly can retire with security. We're not talking about lifting the cap on Social Security so that we can extend the solvency of Social Security and raise benefits. Bottom line, if you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the mats, taking on powerful special interests and fighting for you? I think the overwhelming answer is no, and that is what has got to change.
Senator, let me zoom out and just...
Dude, people are, I'm seeing Lebanon libbing out pretty hard. I used to love you, Bernie, but I'm so disappointed you're validating hate. This is just wrong. Bernie, I love you, but not now. Work on recounts. Democrats lost because they refused to acknowledge Palestine. Okay, that's fair. You can't ignore the country's deep-seated racism and misogyny. Those comments are so out of touch. Agreed. Also, Bernie would have beat Trump in 2016. Okay, that's not bad. How, when Harris spoke of her policies to make the economy better for us and to provide more opportunities for people who purchase homes, etc., we lost because people don't want to see a black woman become president. Like, you are not hearing anything. If that is your analysis of the circumstance, if that's your analysis, you're not hearing anything. Television Man told you $50,000 in tax cuts for small businesses is good, and that's like solid economic policy. Okay? So you're like, what do you mean? Everybody said that that was like the best possible thing to say. And I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make sense. You misspelled white supremacy, but go off. No, Brady, Democrats lost because the majority of Americans have lost the ability and the interest in telling truth apart from fiction. It's that simple. It's sad because, like, there's so much that is somewhat correct in this assessment. But that's just the fucking table, you know? You can't demand to play a different board game when you're playing Monopoly, okay? You can't be like, well, I think we should play as though we're playing Risk. No, man, you're playing Monopoly. Play by the fucking rules, you know? It just doesn't make sense. Like, the reality of the matter is everyone that says racism and misogyny is a factor in this, or white supremacy is a factor in this, yeah, they're not wrong. Of course it is a factor in this. That's America. Okay? That's America. But Trump doesn't play by the rules. That's a fantastic point that you just made. Exactly. Trump never, on the other hand, complains, though, in the sense that, like, his complaints are always echoing the resentment that, like, average Americans feel, even if it's on his own personal key issues. He has a perfect way of tying that back to his own audience. Like, I've never seen another motherfucker turn around and be like, I mean, he channels that they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. Every single argument that he makes is basically that. I've never seen somebody like Donald Trump, a zesty ass, ace, biromantic, queer visibility candidate, a liberal his whole life, a billionaire real estate developer, shits on a golden toilet, lives in an ivory tower, born with a fucking silver spoon, going to, the Rust Belt and complaining about sissy Graydon Carter and his Vanity Fair parties, and have people go, hell yes, sir, you're right. Everything that he fucking complains about, people think he's like shitting on the liberal elite. Okay? I feel like if Kamala Harris ran and was like consistently talking about how racist and white supremacist America was, that would be objectively depressing for her own turnout. Aren't also rich sitting on a golden toilet in your mansion? What? Yes, dude. I am a real estate developer like Donald Trump, who's worth billions of dollars. Oh my God. House chatter still whining? That's crazy, dude. Holy shit. You're close, though? Yes. I'm close to multiple billions of dollars. You're right. Why are VODs locked under subscription? A lot of haters that are combing through the VODs. It is a way to protect you, and is a way to protect myself. And if they want to fucking do that, then they have to subscribe. You can literally still find the VODs on YouTube if you would like to. Okay? I'm getting mass targeted by a very hostile community.
Ask you about these results. You've heard some of the reaction throughout the Democratic
My VODs
Party.
are readily available
How much
on YouTube.
do you personally blame President?
Won't haters be able to clip from YouTube? Yes, but it's just like they go after the chat and stuff. Because if they can't find something on me, then they'll literally be like, well, the chat said this. Look at what his chat is saying. And on YouTube, it's like more difficult and more of a hassle.
Biden for this loss?
President Biden, when he came into office, said that he would be the most progressive president since FDR. And I think on domestic issues, not foreign policy, on domestic issues, he has kept his word. And
I see on YouTube you blur chat now? No. On YouTube, I don't blur. I don't blur chat for that reason. I blur it because they just YouTube automatically strikes down your video if your chat shows in like the first couple of minutes.
The agenda that he has pushed through has been an extraordinarily strong one. But that agenda...
Why do they call you the Alex Jones of the left? People don't call me that. There's only one group of people that call me that. One very specific community. And that very specific community is consistently wrong on everything. They rode with Biden all the way to the fucking end because that was stupid. Okay? They greatly overemphasized Kamala Harris's chances of winning, and that was also stupid. They're consistently wrong, you know? But you can be wrong yourself and get your information from that community, or you can be in here and at least, you know, present yourself as a little bit smarter to your friends.
Has got to be placed within the overall context of American society today. And that American society today is one in which tens of millions of working families and elderly people are struggling, while the people on top have never had it so good.
But Senator, should he have gotten out of the race more quickly, as some are arguing?
I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda, a working class agenda. I'm not going to look backwards. Kamala ran a strong campaign. She did everything that she could. She decisively won the debate. So to me, it's not just about the campaign. It's about what does the Democratic Party stand for? Do ordinary people say, yeah, that is a party that is fighting for my interest and prepared to take on the big money interest who control the economic and political life of the country? That's to me what the issue is.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the economics. You've talked about how the Democratic Party is out of touch when it comes to economic issues. Some Democrats are saying it's not just economic issues, it's cultural issues as well. Here's what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say. Take a look.
What killed the Democrats and what killed Biden was a sense of disorder. And part of the sense of disorder was the unfortunate events of what I would refer to as the woke era.
Has the Democratic Party's focus on identity politics gone too far, Senator?
Let me answer it this way. I think if the Democratic Party must continue to stand up against all forms of bigotry. And Democrats should hold their head high in saying, we led the fight for women's rights and to protect the woman's constitutional right for abortion. We led the fight for civil rights, for gay rights. That is something we should be proud of. But it's not either or, Chris, and this is the problem. You can do both. You could say that I'm for raising.
I take it one step further. I say one can only happen with the other. Because if you don't win elections, you can't do fucking legislation that protects marginalized communities. And if you want to win elections, you have to have a populist left economic message. You can be uncompromising in your values while simultaneously asking people, does this put food on your fucking table or not? A question I keep repeating to people that come to me on a daily basis about trans rights is always this. Let's say you forcibly reversed the HRT and gender surgeries of every single trans person in America. Does that immediately or even in the future improve your material conditions? Does that put more food on your table? Does that make your shelter more secure? Does that lower the price of rent? Does that actually help you in any meaningful way? Okay? It's not going to lower the price of eggs. Someone has told you that you should focus on this. And in a sea of hate, you decided, yeah, trans people are weird. I actually think that's the right thing to focus on. Okay? That's it. That's it. And the other side of this, in terms of like constantly doing hyper-specific messaging to different identity groups within the base that we understand it of the Democratic Party is also silly. Because it's not like trans people exist in a separate plane of existence. Like they still have the rent. You think trans people are not going to benefit from universal health care? You think trans people are not going to benefit from lowering the cost of housing? Yeah, of course they're going to benefit. Same with black people. Same with Latino people. This is why left economic populism is very successful. Okay? You fight the battles that you have to fight to defend trans people while you simultaneously offer everyone something that gets them on board. You say Medicare for all means for all. It means for you, and it means for trans people too. There's no world where we're like, nah, we're going to gut this. Fuck that.
Raising the minimum wage to a living wage, guarantee health care for all people, expanding Social Security. And by the way, I also support a woman's right to control her own body, etc. It's not either or, it's going forward in both directions.
You know, I've been speaking to some Democrats who are concerned because now President-elect Trump has beaten 2 women candidates, and their concern is that it will make it more difficult to nominate a woman candidate in the future. Do you share that concern, Senator?
No, I don't. I think it's not a question. Look, I'm not going to deny that there is sexism in this country, that there's racism, there's homophobia. It's there. But on the other hand, I think what the American people want to support, whether it's a woman, a man, a black or a white, or Latino, whatever, is they want to support somebody who is standing up, Kristen, and fighting for them. People are in pain. People are hurting. They can't afford to go to a doctor. They can't afford to send their kids to childcare or to college. They're worried about future generations and what kind of standard of living they will have. Here is the bottom line, and it has to be dealt with. You got an economy today doing phenomenally well for the people on top. It is not working for the working class. All right? How do we address those issues and in the richest country on the history of the world, create an economy that works for all? That is the issue. And by the way, what Trump did in his election is to say, I know that you're hurting. And the reason is they got millions of people coming across the border illegal. They're eating your dogs. They're eating your cats. He gave an explanation. It happened to be a pretty crazy explanation. Yes, we got to strengthen the borders, but that is not going to raise wages for working people or provide health care to all people. The Democrats need an explanation. And that explanation is corporate greed and the power of the billionaire class. I know that's uncomfortable for people in the Democratic Party, some people, but that is the issue we have to address.
Senator.
Also, I'm done with Gretchen Whitmer as of this very moment. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer will speak today at the Stand Together rally in support of Israel at the U.S. Capitol, organized by Jewish Federations of North America and a conference of presidents of major Jewish American organizations. This is what also Jacob Kornblue says, 2028, question mark. Watch Governor Gretchen Whitmer in a 6-minute speech.
This bipartisan presence here is a testament to some fundamental truths. We stand with the people of Israel. We share their pain. We are committed to their safety, and we will never forget the horrors of October 7th. We stand against the scourge of anti-Semitism.
Before people go, oh, why do you hate the scourge of anti-Semitism? Why do you hate this kind of messaging? You have to remember once again where and why this kind of thing is being stated. Don't be such a fucking fool, okay? I know that in moments you can clip something and be like, see, Hassan is laughing at the notion of someone bringing up in the fucking Democratic Party's like town hall on CNN talking about how their number one priority as an uncommitted voter is like the hostages and also anti-Semitism on college campuses. You know, it's where you say what you say that matters. And just so you understand, Gretchen Whitmer popping off like this at the Stand Together rally is deliberate. Okay? This is happening, not removed, not stripped from the context of Israel's genocide. Okay? Israel's committing a genocide, and you're still consistently supporting Israel. Okay? Openly supporting Israel. Of course, people who support Israel in the United States of America are not going to support Israel by saying, we love that Israel is killing the Palestinians. It's fucking awesome. They're going to support Israel by saying, October 7 happened. October 7, October 7, October 7. They're going to say that by, they're going to lend their support in the most like appropriate messaging possible. So don't be a fucking idiot, okay? They're going to say that by saying Israel has a right to defend itself. Oh, do you not want Israel to exist? Does Israel not have a right to exist? Do you not want Israel to exist? And a lot of people, unfortunately, get duped by this fucking good messaging, okay? They do not have the capacity to understand that this messaging runs counter to Israel's genocide. This message is happening alongside Israel's genocide, and this message is happening, of course, to justify Israel's genocide.
And we will fight back against this ancient force wherever it rears its ugly head. We must make sure all people feel safe on campus, at work, and in their communities. And we stand for a more inclusive, tolerant future where people from all walks of life can thrive. We believe in the goodness and decency of all people. We pray for the safe return of the hostages. And we will work together toward peace. And now I just want to take a moment to talk about where we are. With yet another national election in the rearview mirror, we must move forward and focus on solving problems. At the close of today's program, we will join together to sing Hatikva, Israel's national anthem. The anthem embodies the enduring spirit of the Jewish people.
I think it's pretty funny that like there's no other equivalent to this in the United States of America. Like there's just no other equivalent to this whatsoever. Like I feel like if they did this for like the Saudi lobby or something, people would be like, "What the fuck are you? What? What do you fucking mean? Like what? What?" I'm sorry, hold up. What? If we had 32 states in the United States of America where it was basically legal to demand that you sign a pledge of loyalty to the state of Israel, that you will never criticize Israel in order to retain a job, but instead substitute Israel for like Estonia, okay? You'd be like, what do you mean? What the fuck are you saying? What do you mean I have to sign a pledge of loyalty that I will never criticize the beautiful state, the beautiful nation state of Estonia? Like, what? What are you saying? Except that is the reality for the nation state of Israel. Yes, 32 states in the United States of America have BDS laws.
Who through every challenge have held fast to their vision of peace, freedom, and security. Our responsibility is to carry forth that spirit towards...
Her careful messaging before was to keep her governor's seat. Now that she's dropped the pretext, it seems like she's vying for a presidency in 2028. She has shown that she's a careerist monster with no moral compass. Yeah, she didn't want to rock the boat by coming out too much in the tank for Israel, I think, because she knew what her constituencies look like, and she didn't want to hurt the Democratic Party's chances of potentially winning office. But now that like the election is over, you're seeing, you know, you're seeing basically what it is.
Towards a brighter future where peace prevails, freedom endures, and communities stand united.
Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist?
Israel does exist. Israel is a recognized member of the United Nations. Besides this, there is not such a thing in international law like a right of a state to exist. Does Italy has a right to exist? Italy exists. Now, if tomorrow Italy and France want to merge and become Ita-France, fine. This is not up to us. What is enshrined in international law is the right of a people to exist. So the state is there, the state of Israel is there, is protected as a member of the United Nations. Does this justify the erasure of another people? Hell no. Not 75 years ago, not 57 years ago, surely not today. Where is the protection of the Palestinian people from erasure, from annexation, from illegal occupation and apartheid? This is what we need to discuss.
Yeah, Israel does not have a right to exist as an apartheid state under international law. So when people say Israel has a right to exist, what they actually mean is Israel has a right to exist in the ways that it does. Okay? And no, Israel does not have a right to exist as an apartheid state. The fuck do you mean? But it's obviously going to be positive fucking framing. That was Francesca Albanese, who I believe is the human rights lawyer for occupied Palestinian territories. The human rights office of the rapporteur for occupied Palestinian territories, UN rapporteur, special rapporteur. Do they consider the possibility by 2028 this will have aged quite poorly? I mean, under Donald Trump, who knows? The way I see it is like, the way I see it currently, North Gaza, permanent annexation. That's a lock. What they will do with South Gaza is it remains. I've said already that I think what they're gonna do is basically give Trump like a gimme in the short term. Give Trump like a gimme in the short term. Take a little bit of time off to re-up, rearm, and then permanently annex the West Bank. That's what I think. Because right now, after a year of genocide, I know for a fact that the Israeli economy is lit on fire. I know that the Israeli military is taking a lot of defeats in Lebanon. Like, they don't have the smoke. Will the world stay silent on this monstrosity? I think the world has shown that regardless of their awareness of said monstrosity, that they have an unimaginable tolerance for cruelty that, you know, some of the most defenseless people are subjected to. They just don't give a shit. I mean, we just watched a fucking 40-point Latino swing to a candidate that said that he is going to deport their immediate family members. And if they truly firmly believe that, what? Does Ukraine have a right to exist? Do you condemn the Ottoman Empire? Does Armenia have a right to exist? Sure, you'd say no. What? I've never said that. Dude, if my positions are in the words of Asmongold, if Hasanabi's positions are so bad, why do you consistently feel the need to lie about his positions? You know? Why are you arguing against things that I've never said? Yeah, I'm fucking quoting Asmongold. He did say that. Armenia right to exist? Yes, dumbass. Armenia already exists. Just like Francesca Albanese said. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, do you think I'm an Armenian genocide denier? I'm not. The people have a right to exist. States, in the way that they exist, are left up to the standards of how they exist. Israel, as it currently stands, is an apartheid regime. That's it. Israel cannot exist as an apartheid.
Quickly, before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Some Democrats behind the scenes quietly talking about the possibility, should Justice Sotomayor step down, to allow President Biden to appoint someone who's younger. She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
That was lame, Bernie.
Have you heard any talk of this?
A little bit, yes. I don't think it's a sensible approach.
And you don't think it's a sensible approach?
Correct.
All right. Senator Bernie Sanders.
The only reason why I understand why there's like some level of resistance towards this is because the Democrats are not going to be able to fucking replace her. Like, the Republicans will just stop them from replacing somehow. They're too afraid that in the lame duck session, they'll be like, no, you can't do it.
Sanders, thank you very much for your time this morning and your perspective. We really appreciate it.
While the Democratic Party grapples with their repudiation at the ballot box, independent Senator Bernie Sanders issued a particularly blistering statement this week, accusing Democrats of abandoning the working class.
What do you mean somehow there are only 49 senators right now that would vote yay? I'm willing to bet there's less.
And Senator Bernie Sanders is here with me now. Hello, Senator. Congratulations on your reelection. Nice to have you here. I want to start with the scathing response that you gave after the Democrats lost, Kamala Harris lost pretty big. You said the Democrats abandoned the working class. The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS and said Joe Biden is the most pro-worker president of my lifetime. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she disagreed with you. She added, quote, Bernie Sanders has not won. Do you stand by what you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR. In many ways, on domestic issues, I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation. He went around, he said, I know you're angry, and the reason is that zillions of illegal immigrants are coming over, and they're eating your cats and dogs and everything else. That's the reason. Well, obviously, that is not the reason. The reason is, in my view, that we have an unprecedented level of corporate greed today, more income and wealth inequality, and people on top want it all. And we need an agenda that says to the working class, we're going to take on these powerful special interests and create an economy and a government that works for you. And by the way, that can't happen unless you get big money out of politics. We got to get rid of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision so billionaires do not continue to buy elections.
And I know that you heard President Biden and Vice President Harris tout over and over the record of supporting workers, helping the middle class, some of the things that you were instrumental in helping pass, like lowering the cost of insulin. You saw the president walking a picket line. They forgave student loan debt as much as they could. You said yourself in July that he had a strong record, which you just repeated here. So it sounds like it's not maybe as much about policies and more about messaging and communication.
It's not messaging, Donna. It's a fundamental understanding of saying, look, the Biden administration has done a lot of good things, period.
I agree.
We should all be proud of that. But it has to be put in the broad context of the reality of the American economy today. And that is when you have three people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. When you have millions and millions of people working for starvation wages.
This is what Kamala should have done too. Like, expand upon the accomplishments of the administration and say it's not enough. And we are going to go way beyond.
You got to speak to that reality. So you could say, look, we're proud of what we have accomplished, but we have so much more to do to create the kind.
I gave you a week off because you asked true or false is Hasanabi the Benny Johnson of the left. Benny Johnson wishes he had my real motion. I'm not propped up by the fucking institutions in the same way that he is. When you come back in the next week, if you have some fucking stupid ass opinions like that, you might get banned permanently. Pack watch, R.I.P. Bozo. What?
Kind of government and nations that work for all of us and not just the few. That's my critique. It's not that the Biden administration did not do a lot of good things, but it has to be put into an overall context where in the last 50 years, if you can believe it, real weak inflation accounted for weekly wages are lower today than they were 50 years ago. Massive transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That's not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault. That's what's gone on for 50 years. Recognize it. Deal with it. Tell the working class that you understand what is going on in their lives. You're going to fight for them.
The top aide, former aide to John Fetterman and Harry Reid, Adam Jenelson, told the Washington Post that Democrats are preoccupied with the narrow interests of college-educated elite activists more than everyday working people. Do you agree with that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying here, is that the vast 60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. How do we not talk and fight for raising the minimum wage to a living wage? Dana, on Tuesday, in the election, in the state of Missouri, a conservative state, they became one of the many states that voted, I think, 58% to raise the minimum wage. Now, how is it that in Congress and the Senate, we haven't even brought a damn minimum wage bill onto the floor? We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. The Affordable Care Act is a stopgap measure. It is not addressing the real health care crisis in America. Why aren't we saying, yes, health care is a human right. We're going to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies. We're going to pass the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting it up. We're going to demand that the billionaires start paying their fair share of taxes. You know, Dana, all of these issues that I'm talking about, these are not Bernie Sanders ideas. These are, without exception, popular ideas that Democrats, Republicans, and independents support. Now, the people who don't support it, is the billionaire class, and they got a lot of power. But we've got to be prepared to take them on.
But what the voters supported is a man who would never do any of what you just said. I mean, not even close.
Right. But what that man named Donald Trump did do is he said, I feel your pain. I know that you're hurting, and I have an explanation. Well, his explanation was bogus. You know, millions of people coming across the borders.
Why do people just refuse to understand this basic point? If one party is not addressing the pain that people are experiencing, and the other party is taking advantage of that pain and redirecting that anger to, you know, easily attacked minorities, then yeah, people are stupid enough to fucking tap in with the other party. That's it. I don't know how much I can simplify it. I don't know how much Bernie can simplify it. You have to be, I guess, getting paid the big bucks like Dana is to refuse to reckon with that. That's the real problem here. You can't convince someone if they are professionally unconvincible.
Legal, we have to strengthen the borders. That goes without saying, but that is not the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem right now is to have a small number of people on top who have enormous economic and political power. How, for example, can the Democrats not say, look, we got to get rid of the Citizens United? Mm-hmm. In this campaign, in the Republican Party, Democratic Party, billionaires exerted their power. Most Americans know that's wrong. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we've talked about the economic issues, which, of course, that's number one. Then there's the social and cultural divide that seems to be happening between a lot of people in America who used to support the Democrats and what is now the Democratic Party, or what's perceived to be the Democratic Party. White voters largely propelled Trump to victory in the race, but there was a major shift. The exit polls showed that Latino voters, especially Latino men, shifted more towards Donald Trump. Biden won them by 23 points in 2020. This year, Trump won them by 12. I want you to listen to what a Latino voter told my colleague Ed Lavandera this week.
We believe in, teaching our kids about God, our Christian values, family values, and the Democratic Party is.
Hey, Bernie, I know you just described a lot of stuff, but what do you say to this insane person? It's yeah, man, people are still going to vote Republican, you know? Nobody said if you do this, nobody is making the argument that if you run on improving people's material conditions, that there aren't going to be people that are still nah, fuck that. I hate that. You know? Yeah, there will still be people who vote against their best interests. Especially after they hear, yo voy a votar por Donald Trump.
It's embracing all the woke, left-leaning ideas that it doesn't go with our values.
Do you think it's the Democrats pushing Latinos to Trump, or is it Trump bringing in Latinos?
I think more Democrats are pushing Latinos to Trump.
What do you think of that?
Well, what I think is that Trump...
dude who probably gets bullied by his immediate Latino coworkers who also voted for Donald Trump is not exactly the median Latino voter, okay? That dude in his workplace is getting bullied by other Latino dudes who also voted for Donald Trump. And you're over here being well, what about this insane guy? Look at him. Bernie should be look at this man. Do you think that he's got everything right? He's wearing Donald Trump's hairpiece in a visor. And he went and purchased a sticker to slap on the brim of the visor. There's always gonna be insane people. It's like looking at it's like people coming in here and being like, Hassan, you said there was not a single pro-NATO voter out there. Ryan Ruth destroyed that argument. What do you say to that? And it's like, yeah, okay. You got me. You know what I mean? He's in jail, so he was a little too crazy, don't you think? Free him. Free him so he can vote.
Trump has done a good job in claiming that Democrats do nothing more than the woke agenda. In my view, what Democrats have got to focus on, and tell that gentleman, do you want a minimum wage that's a living wage? Do you think health care is a human right? Do you think we should build the affordable housing that we need? Do you think we should take care of our seniors by expanding Social Security? So I think the emphasis has got to be, of course, on wiping out all forms of bigotry. And the Democrats should be proud of standing up for women's rights and abortion rights and gay rights and civil rights. But the emphasis got to be is to make it clear that we are prepared to stand with the vast majority of the people, many of whom are falling further and further behind, while the people on top do phenomenally well. That's a message that, in my view, will resonate with the Latino community and the entire working class community.
Let me give one example, perhaps, of this kind of dynamic that we're hearing about. Joe Rogan, very popular podcaster, he endorsed Donald Trump in the final days of the election. 4 years ago, you went on his podcast. You got a lot of blowback for doing that and for touting that he endorsed.
Yeah, Dems are fucking annoying. What else is new? They love weaponizing identity politics cynically to smear people. Dana knows all about that, by the way. I mean, she does that on a daily basis. Whenever people are like, hey, Dana, it's kind of wild how much you fucking support Israel. That's like pretty weird. Seems like you're pro-genocide. They're like, wow, this is the most anti-Semitic thing I've ever heard.
You. So is this the kind of example of Democrats perhaps shunning or vilifying people who don't totally agree with them?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Look, you can have an argument with Rogan, agree with him, disagree with him, but what's the problem going on in those shows? It's hard for me to understand that. So I think we've got to get, and clearly you have an alternative media out there, a lot of podcasts that have millions and millions of viewers.
Yeah, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders. So, in the words of Ryan Grimm, Mehdi Hassan, myself, and many others, we did have a Joe Rogan on the left. His name was Joe Rogan.
Get on the show. Disagree with you here. I agree with you there. I don't see a problem in doing that. And you're right. I got vilified by some of the Democratic establishment because I went on Rogan's show. Now a lot of other people are doing just that.
Before I let you go, you were a steadfast supporter of Joe Biden. You were saying that he should not drop out. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on, and a lot of it is that, in fact, he should have dropped out earlier or perhaps never run for a second term.
I don't want to get involved in that. You know, we got to look forward and not in the back. Kamala did her very best. She came in, she won the debate with Trump. She worked her as hard as she possibly could. Let's look to the future and not go backwards.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much. Congrats again.
One of the most